Pukashumi looks surprised when Chen Bai asks for a job transfer scroll. He quickly assures him that he does have them. He opens his hands and two scrolls appear out of thin air. The first scroll is marked S-Class Plague Knight, while the second is S-Class Insect Master. Before Chen Bai can respond, a third scroll appears above Pukashumi, glowing with a radiant red light. Pukashumi introduces this scroll with great reverence, calling it the sect's most precious treasure, an SS-class profession, Son of Doom. Hanshou's eyes widen in shock at the mention of an SS-class profession. He knows how rare such opportunities are, but Chen Bai remains calm and unbothered. Chen Bai glances at Pukashumi and asks if this is truly all he has to offer. Pukashumi, visibly flustered, tries to explain. He says that at the beginning of the trial, reaching SS-class professions is almost impossible. He reminds Chen Bai that even many gods ascended from S-class, A-class, or even B-class professions. Chen Bai listens but doesn't seem impressed. He calmly replies that he already knows all of this. He states clearly that he is only interested in an SS-class change scroll. Hanshou breaks into a cold sweat, stunned by Chen Bai's response. Pukashumi, now also sweating profusely, mutters in disbelief about this request. Still kneeling, he suddenly raises his hands high and declares in a loud voice that Chen Bai is truly the god of their future. He proclaims that with Chen Bai, the revival of the plague sect is finally within reach. Chen Bai calmly tells Pukashumi that if an SS-class scroll isn't available, he will simply explore other options. Pukashumi suddenly laughs and informs Chen Bai that there is one possible way to obtain an SS-class scroll. Chen Bai immediately focuses on the word possible and presses him for details. Pukashumi admits that it's not guaranteed and explains that Chen Bai would need to retrieve the scroll himself. Curious, Chen Bai asks how it can be done. Pukashumi explains that he can open a special secret space connected to the greatest plague event in the history of Blue Star. Within this space, Chen Bai will find plague seeds embedded in history. By collecting them, he can attempt to forge a class change scroll, and it might result in an SS-class scroll. Chen Bai thinks it over for a moment before deciding. He says that if there is even a chance, he has to try. Pukashumi prepares himself and begins chanting. He declares that he will sacrifice his life, power, and soul to create a path for his god. His eyes start glowing green, and a strange green aura surrounds him. As he continues chanting, the glow intensifies and the energy begins to radiate outward. With a final shout, Pukashumi commands the space to open. His entire body shines with a vivid green light before the energy suddenly dissipates, leaving nothing behind. Pukashumi vanishes completely, and his staff falls to the ground where he had stood. A notification appears in front of Chen Bai. It reads, "Would you like to enter the exclusive secret instance, the Whales of 8 million Souls? Instance entrance remaining time, 2 minutes, 56 seconds, 13. Chen Bai looks at Hanshou and tells him that this is an exclusive instance, so he won't be bringing him along. Hanshou, still shaken by everything that just happened, forces a nervous laugh. He assures Chen Bai that he understands completely. He comments on how powerful Pukashumi was and how much he sacrificed to open the instance. Hanshou admits he wouldn't dare enter something so dangerous. Chen Bai reminds him that the portal's opening time is limited. He decides to send Hanshou away from the plague factory before entering. He warns Hanshou to leave quickly, explaining that if the bugs don't get him, the plague will. After dropping Hanshou off in the middle of Magic City, near the plague factory, Chen Bai wastes no time and rushes back toward the portal, aware that every second is precious. Hanshou watches Chen Bai disappear into the distance and takes a moment to think about everything that just happened. The events replay in his mind, and he feels a mix of awe and relief. Spotting a nearby bench, he sits down to catch his breath. Deciding that others in Group 00 will need to hear about this, he prepares to share the story with them. Hanshou logs into the group chat and starts sharing his experience with the others. He is eager to tell the story, but also enjoys building some suspense. He begins by mentioning that he is in Magic City and has just parted ways with the White Emperor. His tone suggests that what he has been through is beyond anyone's imagination. Yeezy immediately demands to know what happened, showing clear excitement and curiosity about the White Emperor's actions. A group member with the name I'm Really Not Sword Immortal chimes in, asking Hanshou to check with the White Emperor and Manga, helping him clear an instance. Hanshou, however, dismisses the idea, hinting that the White Emperor is now far too busy to assist with such tasks. Overlord grows impatient and warns Hanshou to stop teasing, joking about taking action if he doesn't share the details. Hanshou, sensing the humor, but not wanting to push his luck, quickly agrees to tell the story. He explains that an incredibly powerful NPC knelt before the White Emperor to deliver a class change scroll. However, the White Emperor rejected the offerings, saying they weren't good enough. This piques everyone's curiosity, and Overlord demands to know just how strong this NPC was. Han Xiao describes the NPC as wearing a robe and so powerful that even the White Emperor's strongest attack couldn't break through his defenses. This revelation leaves the group stunned, with Overlord doubting that such a thing is even possible. Crow asks about the class change scrolls. Han Xiao reveals that there were 2 S-class scrolls and 1 S-class scroll. The group reacts with disbelief, wondering why the White Emperor would turn down such a rare opportunity. Han Xiao explains that the White Emperor declared that only an SS-class scroll was worth considering. This revelation leaves everyone speechless. Han Xiao continues, telling them how the NPC sacrificed himself to open an exclusive instance for the White Emperor to acquire an SS-class change scroll. Easy is shocked to hear about the NPC's sacrifice, while another member, Lightning Whip's successor, reflects that the gap between the White Emperor and them is probably even greater than the gap between them and ordinary evolvers. Overlord admits that every time he hears news about the White Emperor, especially after events like this, it makes him feel small in comparison. Han Xiao advises the group not to compare themselves to the White Emperor, suggesting instead that they take pride in being in the same group, especially Group 001. Izzy agrees but expresses a desire to turn the tables and become strong enough to stand on equal ground with the White Emperor someday. Chen Bai steps into the instance called the Whales of 8 Million Souls. Around his neck, he notices a new necklace with an hourglass pendant. He pauses to examine it, confused about how it appeared there. After a moment, he tucks it under his shirt, deciding it's best to keep it hidden for now. Ahead of him stands a Roman-style stone gate, weathered but majestic. He wonders if this secret realm is modeled after Florence. Walking forward, he observes the surroundings and starts piecing things together. The architecture, the layout, all screams medieval Florence, the city known as a cradle of art. The streets are empty, and unsettling stillness hangs in the air. He feels a growing sense of unease, questioning why there are no people in a place that should be bustling with life. Moving further, he spots a figure in a black robe sitting alone in a narrow street. Curiosity piqued, Chen Bai approaches. Before he gets too close, the man in the robe lifts a hand, warning him to stay away. His voice is weak, and he coughs violently, explaining that he is gravely ill and cursed by the gods. Chen Bai, ignoring the warning, steps closer anyway. He places a hand on his head, his expression one of calm authority. He asks if the man wants to live, but his question feels more rhetorical than anything else. Without waiting for a response, Chen Bai begins absorbing the virus. A notification suddenly appears in front of him. It informs him that he has absorbed the Black Death virus, earning 3 virus points. Chen Bai straightens, reflecting on the revelation. So it's the Black Death, he thinks. Another notification appears before Chen Bai, delivering new information. It announces that coming into contact with the Black Death has unlocked the Plague Sect's hidden side quest, Seeds of Plague, the Whales of 8 Million Souls. The quest description explains the historical impact of the Black Death, which caused at least 80 million deaths. It states that the Plague Sect has both the duty and the power to collect the seeds of the plague left behind by this devastation. The objective is simple but daunting: collect the plague seeds. The reward promises to transform the collected seeds into plague-related class change scrolls upon completing the quest. Chen Bai reads the notification carefully and reflects on it. He wonders what exactly plague seeds are and how he is supposed to collect them. The quest seems valuable, but first, he needs to understand its mechanics. While he contemplates this, the person in the black robe begins to move. The robe falls away, revealing a girl with striking pink hair. She looks at Chen Bai with gratitude and humility. She thanks him repeatedly, calling him a messenger of the gods and praising him for driving out the plague from her body. She declares her willingness to follow and serve him. Chen Bai, ever practical, retrieves a strange mask from his belongings. He considers her offer and acknowledges that having followers and building renown could make it easier to gather information and resources. Without hesitation, he puts on the mask, its design adding an air of mystery to his presence. He then corrects the woman, telling her not to confuse him with a messenger of the god she might be thinking of. The woman, curious and slightly nervous, asks then which god he serves. Chen Bai delivers his answer with quiet authority, revealing he is not a messenger. He is the god of plague. He instructs her to spread the word. He tells her to inform everyone that he has the power to eliminate their plague and that they should come to Lord's Square to find him. She nods eagerly, ready to carry out his command, her loyalty now firmly rooted in awe and belief. The girl rushes into the streets, her voice ringing out with urgency and excitement. She calls out to anyone suffering from the plague, urging them to listen. She announces that the god of plague has descended and is now waiting at Lord's Square. Her words are bold and confident, promising that he can cure their disease. She moves through the narrow streets, repeating her message. Her shouts echo off the stone walls, drawing attention from the sick and weary. Some of the plague-stricken, curious about her claims, begin to follow her. They stumble out of their homes, their eyes filled with a faint glimmer of hope despite their suffering. In one house, a woman watches the scene unfold from her window. She hears the girl's persistent cries and recognizes her voice. Her husband, lying sick in bed beside their sleeping children, asks who's shouting outside. The woman shakes her head, pity evident in her voice. She explains that it's Alina, the poor girl who must have lost her mind from illness. Outside, Alina shows no sign of stopping. She turns to the gathering crowd and tries to convince them further. She reminds them of her identity, shouting that she is the daughter of Henry, the wealthy merchant who once gave his entire fortune to the church. She insists that she has been completely healed, urging them to come and see the truth for themselves. Her passion and determination are contagious. More people start leaving their homes drawn by her conviction. Skepticism lingers in the air, but so does a spark of curiosity. Could it be true? Could there really be someone who can cure the plague? For the first time in a long while, the streets are alive with whispers of hope. An elderly couple peeks out from their small home, their pale faces marked by exhaustion and fear. They call out to Alina, asking if she is truly cured. Alina stands tall and urges them to see for themselves. She points out that they have heard her shouting in the streets for so long without hearing a single cough from her. The sick, drawn by her bold claims, begin to gather around her. Slowly but steadily, they emerge from their homes, their curiosity outweighing their despair. Alina stands at the center of the growing crowd and confidently declares that the god of plague has healed her. She emphasizes that they don't need donations, bloodletting, or prayers anymore. All they have to do is go to Lord's Square. A brown-haired woman steps closer to Alina, her eyes wide with cautious hope. She reaches out and places a trembling hand on Alina's forehead. Relief washes over her as she realizes that Alina has no fever, no signs of coughing or illness. Tears stream down her face as she whispers, barely able to contain her emotions, wondering if her own children might also be saved. Meanwhile, at Lord's Square, Chen Bai stands amidst the historical remnants of medieval Florence. He observes the desolate environment and reflects on the state of the city. Based on the level of suffering and lack of resources, he concludes that this must be the 14th century. He recalls the staggering impact of the Black Death during this time, a plague that claimed 25 million lives in Europe alone and 80 million globally. He wonders if the plague sea he is tasked with collecting could be here. If not, he must search the entire globe. Just then, he hears Alina calling out to him, referring to him as the merciful god of plague. Turning toward the sound, he sees a crowd forming behind her. Dozens of plague-stricken people are following her, their desperation evident on their faces. Alina, breathless from her efforts, approaches Chen Bai. She apologizes for not knowing the proper way to address him, but assures him that she has followed his instructions and brought as many people as she could. Chen Bai tells the crowd to step closer. He raises his hands, his voice calm but firm, assuring them there is no need to fear. He promises to free them from the agony of their sickness. The woman from earlier approaches with her family. They kneel before Chen Bai, their faces a mixture of hope and desperation. Chen Bai places his hand over them and begins to draw the virus from their bodies. His calm demeanor doesn't waver. Moments later, he floats into the air, defying both gravity and the collective expectations of everyone watching. Without breaking a sweat, he absorbs the virus from every person gathered in the square. It's dramatic, effective, and just flashy enough to silence any doubters in the crowd. The change is immediate. The woman hugs her youngest son, her tears flowing freely. Her husband stands, visibly emotional, while staring at their eldest child, who now looks as healthy as any kid playing in a field. The little boy, noticing his mother's tears, asks her to stop crying. He points out that he feels fine now, which is true. He then asks her mother if she is feeling pain. The mother smiles and assures him everything is fine. She admits she no longer feels any pain, her voice cracking with relief. The crowd starts buzzing. A man announces that he feels lighter, though the size of his belly suggests it might take more than divine intervention to fix everything. Another person marvels at the disappearance of their fever and cough, while someone else celebrates their newfound energy like they've just downed a double espresso. One man, clearly eager to sound important, calls Chen Bai the great lord of the Church of Light. His moment of misdirected reverence is swiftly crushed when a woman next to him calls him a fool. She scolds him for insulting the great god of plague. The man, visibly embarrassed, retreats into silence. The crowd, overwhelmed with emotion, begins kneeling before Chen Bai. Tears stream down their faces as gratitude pours from their hearts. One man loudly thanks the great god for saving them from the plague, his voice trembling with sincerity. Another person vows to worship the god of plague forever, their words echoing through the square. Chen Bai raises his hands and speaks with authority, telling them to rise. He calmly explains that while they are free from the plague, they may still feel some discomfort. The damage left behind by the disease needs time to heal. He instructs them to leave the square, rest for a few days, and allow their bodies to recover fully. He reminds them that their kneeling is not what he desires. His only wish is to see them free from the torment of sickness. His words resonate deeply, and the crowd listens in respectful silence. An elderly woman, her voice shaking with emotion, declares her amazement at his compassion. She calls him noble and great, marveling at how much he cares for those she calls sinners. Her tears fall freely, her gratitude uncontainable. Alina steps forward and raises her hand to address the crowd. She urges those who are healed to follow her across the Arno River Bridge. She encourages them to spread the god's mercy throughout Florence, ensuring that no one remains unaware of his power. Just then, a group of knights arrives at the square. The sight of them sends panic through the crowd. A young girl screams that the church's knights have come, and chaos erupts. People scatter in fear, their earlier relief replaced by terror. Chen Bai remains calm, watching the scene unfold. The lead knight steps forward, his tone sharp and commanding. He announces that someone has reported heretical beliefs being spread in the square. Another knight, his voice harsh, orders all unrelated persons to leave immediately. Just as the knights advance toward Chen Bai, the one in the middle, clearly furious, confronts him directly. He demands to know if Chen Bai is the one spreading heretical teachings and claiming to be the god of plague. Not waiting for an answer, a knight draws his sword and charges at him, shouting about divine punishment. He insists that the plague is sent by God and mocks the idea of a god of plague, calling it foolishness. Chen Bai watches the knight's movements and lets out a soft chuckle. He recognizes this confrontation as an opportunity, a moment to fully establish himself as a god. The knight's actions, though hostile, present the perfect chance to solidify his divine image in the eyes of the crowd. The captain of the knights lunges forward, driving his sword into the gut of Chen Bai. Two other knights follow suit, stabbing him without hesitation. Chen Bai remains eerily still, his expression unreadable. One knight, seemingly satisfied, raises his sword into the air and shouts to the crowd. He calls the gathered people sinners, demanding they repent for their mistakes. He accuses them of being deceived by a heretic, blaming their faith in Chen Bai for their suffering under the plague. His voice booms across the square, filled with righteous fury, as he commands the people to kneel and confess. The crowd, frozen in fear, looks on in disbelief. One of the knights suddenly points out to the captain that the man claiming to be a god is completely unharmed. The captain's confidence falters, and he curses under his breath, unable to understand how their swords had no effect. Chen Bai calmly removes his mask, revealing his face to the knights and the crowd. Before anything else can happen, Elena rushes toward the knights with a large stone in her hands. Her voice trembles with anger as she berates them for daring to attack Chen Bai. Just as she lifts the stone to throw it, Chen Bai raises his hand, stopping her in her tracks. He tells her that he is unharmed, his voice steady and reassuring. Alina, her face still flushed with fury, responds passionately. She proclaims that she understands now. The great god of plague, being divine, cannot be harmed by their weapons, but she cannot forgive them for their audacity. She urges Chen Bai to punish the knights for their ignorance, calling for divine retribution. The knights, their earlier bravado fading quickly, begin trembling. Their hands shake and fear is evident in their eyes. Chen Bai, however, remains calm and speaks firmly. He tells Alina that she is wrong. He explains that he does not hold a grudge against the knights and will not punish them. He assures her and the crowd that their swords cannot harm him, and no matter how many times they strike, he will continue to free people from the suffering of the plague. His words carry a quiet power, resonating with both the crowd and the knights. The crowd, moved by his mercy and strength, begins chanting in unison. They call him the true God, a merciful and compassionate Lord. Their voices grow louder as they vow to follow him forever. The knights, now completely puzzled and overwhelmed, stand frozen. They realize that nothing they do will change the tide of faith turning against them. Meanwhile, at the Holy See of Light Cathedral, Bishop John and Bishop Haken are standing at the grand staircase. Bishop Haken, his frustration barely contained, vents his anger. He rages about how, in just 3 days, the heretic has managed to convert 90% of the city into his followers. He points out that it is Sunday, yet only 7 people have shown up at the cathedral for worship. His voice rises as he blames Bishop John for stopping him from ordering the knights to kill a heretic at the square. Now nearly everyone has abandoned the cathedral's teachings, and they are left with only 5 knights, barely enough to guard the building, let alone maintain their authority. Bishop John, however, remains calm despite the accusations. He defends his decision, pointing to what they have witnessed over the last 3 days. He reminds Bishop Haken of the heretic's sudden appearance and his undeniable ability to cure the plague. Within those 3 days, the man cured nearly the entire city, turning despair into hope. John continues, describing how the heretic has done more than perform miracles. He has taught his followers practical methods to prevent and control the spread of the disease. He led them in efforts to fight the plague and personally cared for those who had not yet recovered. The bishop shakes his head, acknowledging that the doctrines preached by the heretic are unlike anything they have encountered. The teachings focus on strange concepts, microorganisms, hygiene, and bacteria, terms that even John admits he doesn't fully understand. Yet none of it involves imposing restrictions on the followers or demanding contributions. It's this lack of burden, coupled with tangible results, that has made the people flock to him. Bishop John continues speaking, his tone thoughtful and steady. He recalls how the heretic told the people that a kind God would never force kind-hearted believers to fight each other over differing faiths. If they had killed a man in the square that day, John admits it would have solidified in the eyes of the people who was the demon and who was the true God. Bishop Haken's fury boils over. He accuses John of sounding like one of the plague God's followers. He raises his voice and questions whether John even cares about the Holy See of Light or their Lord. John, still composed, replies firmly. He reminds Haken that their Lord is the almighty true God and does not need their protection. What they should worry about, he says, is themselves and their declining influence. John reveals that he has already sent a letter to the Pope detailing everything that has transpired in Florence. Meanwhile, in a grand royal chamber, Chen Bai sits in silence, examining the seed of plague resting in his palm. Its eerie glow reflects his thoughts. He considers how it was created from the viruses he absorbed throughout Florence. While he feels relief knowing the method to obtain a seed of plague, his progress feels discouragingly slow. Opening the system interface, a notification appears before him. It reveals the current state of the seed of plague, Black Death, concentration progress, 0.001. It also informs him of a newly obtained ability, Pillar of Plague. This ability allows him to set up a pillar where believers can pray to transfer their diseases into it. The diseases stored within the pillar will then be converted into progress for the seed of plague. Chen Bai reflects on the notification, realizing that completing the seed will require far more effort than he initially thought. The slow progress means he will likely have to travel across the entire world, collecting more diseases and uniting more followers under his cause. Just then, Elena enters the royal room, her expression calm yet full of purpose. She informs Chen Bai that his loyal believers are gathered and waiting for him. Chen Bai nods, rising from his seat, and follows her outside. As he steps out, he is greeted by a massive crowd stretching as far as the eye can see. The sea of people chants his name and voices their reverence, their devotion unmistakable. Chen Bai observes them for a moment before addressing them with authority. He declares that the plague in Florence has been completely eradicated. However, he explains that his work is not finished, and that he must move on to other places to continue his mission. Before leaving, he promises to leave something behind for them. Raising his hand, he summons a glowing purple pillar of plague. The pillar materializes before the crowd, radiating a vibrant purple aura that fills the air with a sense of hope and awe. Chen Bai explains that the pillar has the power to cure any disease for those who pray before it. The crowd erupts in tears and cheers, overwhelmed by the miracle. The woman from earlier falls to her knees, calling it a divine blessing. Chen Bai silences them gently but firmly. He warns them not to become overly reliant on the pillar, explaining that its power will fade once he leaves this world. He reminds them to follow the methods he has taught for preventing and controlling diseases. His tone carries both encouragement and a sense of responsibility. He reassures them not to fear, emphasizing that diseases and living beings can coexist if handled wisely. With proper understanding and use, even harmful things can become tools for progress. Lastly, he instructs them to always remember the doctrines of the plague sect, leaving them with a legacy of knowledge and faith. Elena, her voice filled with emotion, assures Chen Bai that they will always remember his teachings and the doctrines of the plague sect. She declares their intention to build a cathedral in Florence to honor his deeds and spread the story of what he has done for them. Chen Bai smiles faintly and taps her head in a gesture of encouragement. He thanks her and entrusts the future to her and the people, saying it will be up to them to carry on his legacy. Turning back to the crowd, he wishes them a life free from the suffering of disease and bids them farewell with a calm yet commanding presence. As he walks away from Florence, the sound of the people's chants follows him, echoing even beyond the city walls. Chen Bai pauses for a moment, reflecting on the devotion of the people. He finds them amusing and pragmatic at the same time. The people of this era, so deeply tied to religion, are easy to sway when presented with miracles. This fanaticism, he realizes, works in his favor. Their belief will make it far easier to gather the seed of plague. The thought brings a quiet satisfaction as he continues on his path. Soon, Chen Bai ascends, breaking free of Earth's atmosphere. Hovering above, he gazes down the planet below, its vast surface a reminder of how much work lies ahead. He reflects that the fame of being perceived as a god will naturally attract people to him. This attention will streamline his efforts to collect this seed of plague, reducing the time it would otherwise take. He acknowledges that without this method, gathering and concentrating the seed could have taken a decade or more. By using the influence of his divine identity, he can save an immense amount of time. Looking ahead, Chen Bai resolves to fully embrace this role. If being a god is what it takes to clear this dungeon and complete his mission, then that is exactly the path he will take. Days later, within the grand halls of San Pietro Cathedral in Vatican City, a young man kneels before the Pope. His head bowed respectfully, he asks why he has been summoned. The Pope, seated on his ornate chair, addresses him with a heavy tone. He speaks of the failure of the Eastern expedition, a defeat that he claims has disappointed the gods. He describes how the demon rode on the chance and released a plague to harm the people. Then, at such a crucial moment, a heretic used the plague and snatched away their believers. The young man stands up and asks if the Pope is talking about the guy who proclaims to be the god of plague. He is none other than Sauron, the leader of the Knights Templar. His face twists in disdain as he comments on the weak faith of those who abandoned the Holy See. He openly mocks them, questioning whether they even possess the intelligence to see through what he calls the lies of the so-called god of plague. The Pope rises from his chair, his expression grave. He corrects Sauron, pointing out that after the heretic appeared in Florence, the plague was indeed cured. Sauron, startled by this revelation, hesitates. The thought of someone truly curing the plague stirs doubt in his mind, and he begins to question the situation. Before Sauron can voice his thoughts, the Pope cuts him off. He declares with certainty that the heretic is no savior but a demon. He explains that the demon released the plague and then withdrew it to make it appear like a miraculous cure. By doing so, the demon scammed the believers of the Holy See, leading them astray and using their suffering to prevent them from reaching heaven. Sauron listens, his initial arrogance now replaced by contemplation. Sauron grits his teeth, his anger barely contained. He curses the cunning demon, furious that it would dare to use such deceptive tactics to manipulate the people. The Pope continues with a commanding tone, informing Sauron that the heretic has now arrived in Vatican City. He reveals that he has already ordered the man to be brought to the plaza and has instructed the public to gather there as well. The Pope emphasizes the importance of making an example of the heretic in front of everyone. He orders Sauron to take the Spear of Longinus and eliminate the so-called demon in plain view. With zeal in his voice, he urges Sauron to act for their Lord and the faithful, declaring it their duty to cleanse the world of evil. Sauron bows respectfully, his voice steady despite his fury. He proclaims his readiness to carry out the task, promising to kill the demon and reveal the truth to all. He invokes the protection of God as he prepares to fulfill the Pope's command. Meanwhile, a child leads Chen Bai to the Vatican Plaza. The child points to the expansive square and explains that it is the largest plaza in the Vatican. With an excited tone, the child adds that he will run ahead to tell everyone about the arrival of the plague god, mentioning how much the people have been waiting for him. Chen Bai thanks the child with a nod and encourages him to hurry. Standing there, Chen Bai reflects he finds the situation almost laughable, as after leaving Florence, every city under the control of Holy See had either blocked its gates or prevented him from entering. Yet here, in Vatican City, a perfectly healthy child had come to greet him and lead him to the plaza. The simplicity of the tactic strikes him as foolishly transparent. He walks up to the grand sculpture of the Holy See of Light and observes his surroundings with calculated calm. He senses the confrontation brewing. The plaza, the gathering crowd, the center of the church's power, it all points to one thing. They intend to kill him here, right at their home base. But this, too, is something he anticipated. A smile forms as he considers the opportunity presented. If they want to strike him down, this will be the perfect chance to deal with the Holy See once and for all. His confidence unshaken, he waits, eager to see the next move in this game. People start to whisper among themselves. One girl points out that the church is about to judge the heretic who is said to have cured the plague. She asks her friends if they believe he really can cure it. One woman standing nearby responds, saying it must be a lie. If the cure were true, the church would not judge him. Just then, the Pope and Sauron arrive at the plaza. The Pope yells at Chen Bai, calling him a demon. He declares that the Lord has commanded that the heretic be destroyed here and now. Sauron, holding the Spear of Longinus, stands beside the Pope. He warns Chen Bai that there is no escape for him. Chen Bai looks around calmly, noticing that the Pope and the Templar Knights are present. He realizes they have planned everything, even setting up a stage for this moment. Chen Bai steps forward and addresses the crowd. He tells them that he has come to remove the plague from the world. He challenges the church, saying they are wrong to call him a demon and to blame him for the plague. The Pope responds strongly, claiming that the Lord has shown him the truth. He accuses Chen Bai of being a demon from the abyss who has used evil tricks to destroy people's faith in God. The Pope says that Chen Bai caused the plague to harm people, and then made it seem like a miracle when he cured it, leading them away from the true faith. In the crowd, a woman asks if Chen Bai really can cure the plague. A man nearby answers, saying he saw it happen himself on his way from Florence. Another woman, holding a baby in her arms, speaks out. She asks why the church does not let the heretic cure the plague before punishing him. She says her child is dying and hopes the heretic can save him. The Pope listens to the murmurs of the crowd. He realizes that the fear from the plague has shaken people's faith. He shouts at Chen Bai, saying that if he had only taken away the plague, the Lord might have spared him. But Chen Bai's true crime is that he secretly corrupts people's souls. The Pope says those souls will be condemned to hell forever. A man in the crowd hears the Pope and says that this is the truth. A woman beside him comments, calling Chen Bai a vile demon. The crowd begins to shout louder, demanding judgment and calling for Chen Bai's death. Sauron, seeing the anger of the crowd, rushes at Chen Bai with the spear of Longinus in his hand. He yells that the followers of God are calling for justice and charges at Chen Bai, ready to strike. But Chen Bai stops the spear with just the tip of his finger. Sauron is stunned by this and cannot believe what he sees. Chen Bai tells Sauron to give up. He warns him that the spear has already made one mistake by harming the Lord's son. It will not make the same mistake again, so Sauron should stop using it. Sauron stands frozen, his mind racing. He wonders how it is possible for Chen Bai to stop the spear like that. Chen Bai looks around at the crowd, then turns to the Pope. He shouts that he has been wandering from Florence to this place why the church kept stopping him from ending the plague. Now, seeing the Pope's true nature, he understands. The Pope laughs loudly, mocking Chen Bai for suggesting that he is the demon. Nearby, a couple in the crowd whispers to each other, asking how it is possible that the Pope could be a demon. Chen Bai clenches his fist and says that whether the Pope is a demon or not will soon be clear to everyone. Without warning, he punches the Pope hard in the neck. The Pope is unable to handle the power of the punch. He is sent flying back, crashing to the ground. The knights around them quickly withdraw their weapons, shocked by what they just witnessed. They shout that Chen Bai has killed the Pope. Sauron, enraged, curses Chen Bai. He realizes that he was tricked by Chen Bai's lies and distracted by his questions. Now he is certain that Chen Bai is indeed a demon. Meanwhile, standing before the Pope, Chen Bai tells him to reveal his true form, the form of the demon who took the Pope's place. Sauron watches, stunned, as the Pope begins to change. His body twists and morphs, and what appears to be the true form of a demon starts to show. The Pope's head grows horns, dark and twisted. His eyes turn red, and his teeth grow long and sharp, like those of a beast. The people in the crowd begin to panic. Some shout that the Pope now has demon horns, while others ask what has happened to him. The Pope, now fully transformed into a monstrous figure, laughs like a demon. He looks at Chen Bai with a cruel smile, promising that he will kill him. Chen Bai stands still, calm. He already expected this. He knows that his power is too much for the people of this time to understand. If he had used all his abilities, everyone would have believed the Pope's lies without question. Simply debating that the Pope was foolish. Using a virus to kill him wouldn't fully convince the people either. But Chen Bai had prepared for this moment. When he went to pick up Meng Meng, he gathered a powerful demon's blood essence, one that could give him control over the Pope. He injected the essence into the Pope's body and crushed it there, adding the zombie virus as a backup. This way, no matter what happened, the Pope would turn into a true monster in front of everyone, revealing his true nature. The monstrous Pope seems furious. He creates a fireball in his mouth and then spits it out, sending flames everywhere. The fire even hits his own knights and the ordinary people nearby. Panic spreads through the crowd. People start running in every direction, shouting that a demon is here and warning others to get away quickly. Chen Bai watches calmly. He understands that the demon horns and the fire are signs that the blood essence is taking effect. It is over now. The blood he used is powerful, but it has strict limits. Soon, the Pope's body will collapse under the strain of the demonic power. Sauron, standing in shock, sees the Pope's true form and exclaims that the bishop is truly a demon. Chen Bai addresses the crowd. He tells them that a demon from hell has taken the Pope's place, twisted the teachings of the church, and harmed the faithful. Now this demon dares to stop him from ending the plague and saving lives. This is a sin that cannot be forgiven. Chen Bai declares that today he will bring divine punishment to this demon. Chen Bai raises his finger, pointing at the Pope. He gives the order and the virus inside the Pope begins to take effect. In just a few seconds, the Pope's body begins to disintegrate, turning to dust before the eyes of everyone. Sauron, overcome with guilt and fear, kneels before Chen Bai. He declares that he, the commander of the Templar Knights of the Radiant Church, repents for his actions. He admits that he was deceived by the demon and committed the terrible sin of blocking Chen Bai. He says he is ready to accept whatever punishment is given to him. Chen Bai looks at Sauron and says that he admires his courage and devotion. However, he wants Sauron to understand one thing: God does not punish humanity. God does not care. Chen Bai stretches out his hand and explains that he has come to this world with only one purpose: to take away the plague. Sauron, now humbled, bows his head and agrees. He understands. He calls Chen Bai the great and merciful god of plagues. He says he will gather all the people suffering from the plague in the city and bring them to Chen Bai. After the Vatican is rid of the demon pope, the church quickly loses power. At the same time, the cult of the plague rises rapidly. Chen Bai's influence spreads across Europe. He no longer faces any major resistance in his operations. Everyone has heard of the god of plagues, and every city suffering from the plague prepares to welcome his arrival. Soon, pillars of plague are built in every city and village across Europe. But the work is far from over. Chen Bai knows the seeds of the plague are still growing and he must continue his journey. He travels across Africa, Asia, and Eurasia, meeting different races, religions, and empires along the way. 1 year, 5 months, and 12 days later, the seeds of the plague are finally complete. Chen Bai reflects on his long journey and realizes that he now only needs to reclaim the plague from the pillars. He thinks about the mission, and although it didn't have strong enemies, it was incredibly difficult. If he had known how long it would take to complete, he might have never started. The value of 1.5 years in the early post-apocalypse was far too great to waste. A notification appears in front of Chen Bai, asking him if he wants to collect all the plague seeds in the plague pillars. Chen Bai confirms, knowing that the time has come to complete his task. Meanwhile, in medieval Florence, Elena, now dressed in the attire of a priestess, kneels before one of the plague pillars. She says a prayer asking the great plague god for a smooth journey and for the completion of his plans. As she prays, she suddenly witnesses the pillar glowing with a purple light, the sign of the plague's power. Elena is awestruck by the sight. A man nearby notices her reaction and asks what has happened. He calls her High Priest Elena, confused by the strange event. With tears of joy in her eyes, Elena answers. She says that the god has finished his journey and is now returning to the kingdom of the gods. She tells everyone that it is time to recite the teachings they were given, so that everyone will know they have learned them well. As Elena begins chanting, her voice rises, reaching the ears of those walking through the streets of Florence. She explains the purpose of the plague cult, speaking to the people with passion and clarity. She says that the cult is not about death, disaster, or corruption. It is not about glorifying suffering or extinction. Instead, the cult's mission is to bring peace and happiness to the world. They seek to ensure that people are healthy and joyful. Elena continues, explaining that to achieve this, they must understand the plague. By understanding it, they can stop it from harming anyone again. She emphasizes that the plague god can help them control the plague, using its power to destroy sin and evil. She says that in the past, in their ignorance, people hurt each other. But now, by recognizing the plague and its teachings, they will no longer fight. Instead, they will live in harmony, free from the evil that once divided them. In the streets of Florence, people kneel in respect, their eyes focused on the glowing plague pillar. The pillar continues to emit the purple plague, the energy rising toward the sky in a powerful surge. Elena, still kneeling before the pillar, continues her chanting. She speaks of the future, where the followers of the plague god will fight side by side to control the plague. She promises that the plague will become their greatest weapon, a force that will protect life itself. With it, they will drive away the demons that have plagued the earth for so long. Meanwhile, across the globe, the same scene unfolds. People from every corner of the world kneel in front of their own plague pillars, repeating the same chants. From the scorching deserts of the Sahara to the high mountains of Asia, people everywhere unite in their devotion to the plague god. As the chanting continues, Elena's words echo through the air. The plague will strike fear into the hearts of bloodthirsty and cruel demons. It will bring destruction to those who oppose life. She tells the people that all things in this world will eventually decay and rot, but the billions of lives that now follow the plague god will work together to live forever, never dying. The chant becomes a powerful mantra, uniting everyone under the same belief. All things perish, but all living things will remain immortal. The words echo in the hearts of people from every land, their faith in the plague god growing stronger with every passing moment. The world is changing and they are ready to embrace it. Meanwhile, Chen Bai absorbs the plague energy radiating from the pillars around the world. He can hear the voices of the people chanting for him. The voices fill the air, repeating prayers, asking that the light of their Lord shine forever on the world. Chen Bai wonders if these prayers are sincere. He senses their faith, but he wonders if they truly understand what they are calling for. Just then, a notification appears in front of him, telling him that the mission is completed and that he is leaving the dungeon. As the words disappear, Chen Bai finds himself once again standing in the middle of the plague factory in the Magic City. The system informs him that the mission rewards are now being generated. A divine scroll materializes in front of him. It is the life and death job change scroll, an SSS-level scroll. The requirements for using it say that the user must possess the talent Virus Monarch at the SSS level. Chen Bai reaches out and grabs the scroll, reading the description. He realizes that this is not quite the ability he expected. He truly wants to change his job, but the current mission from Lido requires him to see 2 scrolls, not just one for SSS-level professions. He thinks about it and realizes that now that he has 1 SSS-level job transfer scroll, he needs to find his second one. He remembers that the Abyss might have an SSS-level job transfer scroll, and that could be his next target. Suddenly, another notification appears in front of him saying that the mission Plague Factory has failed. Chen Bai is startled. He wonders what that means. Didn't he find the source of the plague in the factory? Why is the mission failing now? He pauses, thinking back. When he encountered Pukashumi, there was no message saying the mission was complete. He now understands why. The source of the plague, the mission's goal, had been altered by his very presence. After Pukashumi sacrificed himself, the source of the plague must have lost its power and died. Without that power, the mission couldn't be completed. Looking around at the poisonous mushrooms nearby, Chen Bai thinks that they must be connected to the plague's source. Chen Bai leaves the plague factory, stepping out into the open. And as he walks, his mind begins to wander. He wonders what is happening in Beatty City right now. He hasn't been there in a while, and he's curious about the progress. Taking out his phone, he texts Song Zixiang, asking about the current situation in Beatty City and how everyone's strength is developing. Soon he receives a reply from Song Zixiang. She tells him that the reconstruction of Beatty City has officially started. She has already chosen a place to install the supercomputing core and set up the production line. After receiving Chen Bai's guidance a few days ago, everyone now has a clear direction. However, she adds it has only been 4.5 days, and since everyone is also working on rebuilding the city, their strength has not changed yet. Chen Bai is surprised by the mention of just 4.5 days. He clearly remembers spending 1.5 years in the dungeon. He wonders how this is possible. Then it hits him. It must be because of the hard glass of time. The hard glass had become part of him when it bonded with his body, appearing and disappearing with his consciousness. It must have been the reason for the time distortion. The hard glass had transported him to the dungeon on its own, and it is the only thing that can make the years pass by so quickly while only a few days pass in the real world. Chen Bai decides to check the messages in Group 001. The chat is full of activity. Han Xiao mentions that the Plague Chemical Factory mission which he and Chen Bai were working on has failed. He expresses surprise, asking what happened. The group is full of questions, with people asking about Chen Bai's well-being and whether he's okay. Shu Chuan asks if the mission was supposed to give Chen Bai an SSS-level job transfer scroll. Overlord quickly dismisses concerns about the job transfer scroll, saying that everyone should first focus on whether Chen Bai is even alive. Liu Huai tries to calm the group down, reminding them that mission failure doesn't mean anything too serious. Reading through the chat, Chen Bai reflects. He realizes that Han Xiao must have received a different mission than his. His own mission was connected to the Plague Seal, something Han Xiao didn't have. Curious, Chen Bai decides to check what Han Xiao and the others have been saying recently in the group. He decides to comment in the chat, informing them that the Plague Chemical Factory mission indeed failed. The group responds with surprise, asking if Chen Bai is very upset or if he needs some comfort. Leaf offers a warm hug, while Liu Huai offers even more warm places than just a hug. Crow expresses disbelief, saying that even Chen Bai failed in the mission. Shu Chuan reassures him, calling him the strongest. Overlord emphasizes that failure is nothing to fear, and that the only downside is losing the SSS-level profession scroll. Han Xiao then comments that a level 70 boss had sacrificed himself to open the dungeon, making failure understandable. Intrigued by this, Chen Bai shares the details of his SSS-level job transfer scroll. He explains that although the Plague Chemical Factory mission failed, he still obtained the SSS-level profession scroll. He adds that the failure occurred because the key NPC, who sacrificed himself to open the dungeon, caused the mission target to disappear. The group falls silent for a moment, trying to understand. Leaf and Liu Huai are confused. Crow is shocked and repeats what he just read, asking if everyone saw what Chen Bai said. Mizukawa offers congratulations, while Overlord can't hide his excitement, calling it incredible. The chat buzzes with surprise and excitement. Everyone is amazed by the turn of events. Han Xiao suggests upgrading their chat group to a league group. The group reacts with curiosity. Overlord doesn't understand what league means, thinking it might be related to the game League of Legends. Leaf excitedly mentions that after upgrading, they could announce the name of their alliance in speeches or messages. Liu Huai, who is reading about the benefits of upgrading chat groups, points out that it's expensive. Chen Bai replies that he has thought about this idea before but isn't sure if everyone in the group would be interested. He explains that a lead group would be more formal, focused on honor and glory, while their current chat group is much more relaxed. Chen Bai then initiates a vote, asking the group to decide if they want to upgrade. He suggests they take their time and not rush into a decision. If more than 2/3 of the group agrees, they will upgrade. Hang Xiao quickly agrees, adding that after the dungeon mission, he is inviting Chen Bai to come and rest at his place, offering his warm bed. Chen Bai jokingly refuses and asks Han Xiao to show him a villa area in Magic City where he can rest. Han Xiao agrees and they make plans to meet. Later, Chen Bai arrives at the villa area in Magic City. Standing in front of the luxurious district, he surveys the area. It seems like a good place to rest. Han Xiao had recommended it, and so far there is no sign of any danger. Thermal tracking and virus detection show no living organisms nearby, which suggests it is safe. However, deep inside one of the villas in the basement, 2 girls are present. They look unusual, almost like spirits, as they are faintly visible. The younger sister notices someone approaching and gets scared. She tells her older sister, who responds calmly, assuring her that she will take care of the intruder. The younger sister, still nervous, asks her not to kill anyone, but to just drive him away. Chen Bai settles into one of the bedrooms of the luxury villa in the Magic City. He lies on the soft bed and sighs in relief. The modern world feels so much more comfortable compared to the harsh environments he's been through. After the chaos of the dungeon and his many missions, he finally has some time to relax. He smiles, thinking about how he will be able to rest properly now. As he stretches out, he recalls the medicinal pillow made from traditional Chinese medicine that he brought with him from the dungeon. He's used it before and remembers how much it helped him sleep better, so he decides to give it a try. Reaching into his space, he pulls out the pillow, reflecting on its calming effects. But just as he prepares to lay it under his head, a notification pops up in front of him. It reads Ancient Dragon Chinese Medicine Pillow, D-level, props, daily necessities. This item helps to concentrate the mind and calm the spirit. It is made with the secret formula and can improve sleep quality. It offers weak defense against mental attacks. It suits the nerves and promotes longevity. Long-term use helps to consolidate and grow mental strength. Chen Bai is taken aback. He didn't expect such detailed information. The pillow was just an ordinary item in the dungeon. How did it become an item with specific traits now? He wonders what's going on. He starts to open his inventory to check his other belongings, only to be even more shocked. Everything has changed. The vase he had brought along is now listed as a sea-level city-state probe exhibit. The description reads, "This is a creation that embodies the painstaking efforts of craftsmen. When exhibited in the City-State Architecture Museum, it will grant a bonus to the craftsmanship of city-state facilities." Chen Bai stares at the description, feeling puzzled. The vase, which was simply a decorative item to him before, now has such an official-sounding title and an effect he hadn't expected. He then checks the other item in his inventory, the living Buddha relics. It has also been upgraded to a C-grade special material. The new description says, "The living Buddha's flesh is refined in a sealed environment at high temperature and is a rare material. When carried, it increases luck by 1 and provides a defense against evil spirits, increasing it by 5. Chen Bai is even more surprised by this. The relics, which were just a curiosity to him, now seem to hold far more value. The gold coins he had collected from the dungeon have also been transformed. They are now labeled D-level, city-state prop exhibits. The description reads, "Weathered ancient coins. These coins have historical value. Exhibiting them in the City-State Architecture Museum will increase the income of city-state facilities." Chen Bai shakes his head in disbelief. He wonders how could something as simple as coins become so important. He moves on to the next item, the gold ring he had brought with him. Now labeled Eye of Horus Gold Ring, C-level, the description states, "A ring decorated with the Eye of Horus, has a 5% recovery ability and can actively release a shield once. The shield is charged by moonlight. The ring seems far more powerful now, and its use of moonlight for a shield adds a mysterious touch. He wonders how the moonlight could be used in practical situations. Chen Bai is stunned. More than half of the items he brought out of the dungeon have now been transformed into actual, usable items with traits and characteristics. This is unlike anything he's ever heard of, items from dungeons evolving into real functional props. The concept seems almost too strange to grasp. How did this happen? And what does it mean for his future? He continues to scroll through his inventory, noticing that even the simplest materials have been upgraded into specialized items. He recalls something else he had brought back with him, the Spear of Longinus. This weapon, once handed to him by Sauron before he left the Vatican, had always intrigued him. A sovereign-level powerhouse from his past life had wielded this same spear. And now Chen Bai had his own version. He decides to take a closer look at it. As he opens the Spear of Longinus in his inventory, he sees that it too has become an item. The description reads, Unawakened Spear of Longinus, F-Class. He frowns, reading the rest. The spear is described as a special long-handled weapon with all attributes +3. It also has a skill called Dark Banishment, which allows the spear to repel evil, darkness, corruption, abyss, and filth creatures, increasing the damage caused to these creatures by 200%. This makes the spear especially useful for dealing with evil entities. Furthermore, it has a dusty seal, which states that the spear will gradually awaken as evil creatures are killed. The description shows the remaining kills for initial awakening, 0/10. Chen Bai stares at the Spear of Longinus, his thoughts a mix of excitement and hesitation. The power it promises is immense, a weapon forged to repel dark forces, corruption, and evil, exactly what he would need in his quest. But the requirements for unlocking its true potential are clear. He needs to kill 10 evil creatures to activate it. The thought of wielding such a legendary weapon is thrilling, yet a tinge of doubt creeps into his mind. The task won't be easy. Chen Bai reflects that the Spear of Longinus, which once existed on Blue Star, has now become an item, a manifestation of the universe's will, just like so many other things he's encountered. He reflects that everything that has become an item has hidden unique characteristics. Even the spear now in his hands seems to carry a mystery. What's even stranger is that it's the only Spear of Longinus he's aware of. He wonders if Mr. Lorga, the sovereign-level powerhouse from his past life, could still have risen to power without the spear. It's a thought that briefly occupies his mind, but then something unexpected happens. A sudden sharp pain shoots through his palm, making him gasp. His hand feels like it's on fire. Without thinking, he tosses the spear onto the bed, trying to shake off the discomfort. His palm is now bright red, the skin inflamed. Chen Bai stares at it, bewildered. He inspects his hand more closely and realizes with a sinking feeling that the spear is rejecting him. His palm feels as if it's been burned by the weapon's touch. The intensity of the pain tells him that this weapon is not meant for him, at least not yet. He can't help but think that just as the spear repels evil forces, it might see him as one of those very forces, evil, dark, corrupted, abyssal, or filthy. That could be the only explanation for the painful reaction. The realization settles in. He cannot use the spear, at least not without suffering more severe consequences. The fact that the spear is only F-leveled makes it painful enough. If it were upgraded to S-rank, he fears it might literally melt him. Chen Bai sighs, rubbing his aching palm. He knows what needs to be done. The Spear of Longinus is too dangerous for him to wield in its current state. There's no need for him to risk his own well-being. With a final glance at the weapon, he decides he will leave it in his inventory, gathering dust for as long as it takes. That way, it will be one less thing in the world that could pose a threat to him. Just then, the door of his room suddenly opens. He is sure he locked it earlier. Without warning, a knife appears and flies straight at him. He grabs the knife in midair with his fingers, stopping it. Chen Bai senses that someone is trying to push the knife, but their grip is too weak for him. He thinks that he cannot see the attacker with either his virus detection or thermal vision. This means the person is invisible. It must be a spiritual being controlling the knife. Chen Bai assumes that the spirit is weak because it can only manipulate objects to attack. He guesses that the level of the spirit should be low. Chen Bai knows that he could use his hellfire to destroy the spirit, but that would also destroy the room. The knife slips from his grip and falls to the floor. He feels frustrated. With nearly 300 spiritual power, he only has one skill that can harm spirits. He knows he needs a better way to deal with this kind of attack. The knife attacks again, but this time Chen Bai lowers his head and avoids it. He thinks about his options and decides to check his system. He has collected virus points from city defense and dungeons. He hopes he can find a more effective skill for this situation. The Blacklight virus doesn't seem to be useful against spirits. Maybe the Spirit Power virus series could help. However, when he checks, he realizes that no virus can unlock the Spirit Power skill tree. Chen Bai stands up determined. He says to himself that he will find a way to handle this. He needs to learn more about how to deal with spirits and spiritual power. The knife continues attacking, but Chen Bai keeps dodging. He feels confident that he has enough virus points now. Just then, a notification appears on his screen confirming that his virus has evolved. The zombie virus has changed into the original virus. After that, the original virus evolves into the T-virus. Then, the T-virus transforms again into the Spirit Power Enhanced T-virus. At the same time, something strange happens. The knife that was attacking him is suddenly stopped by another knife. The two knives seem to clash with each other, as if they are fighting. Chen Bai wonders why the attack has stopped. Has the spirit running the knife finally given up? He thinks the spirit may have run away. Curious about the spirit, Chen Bai decides to see what kind of spirit it is. Another notification appears, telling him that the exclusive skill for the Spirit Power Enhanced T-Virus has been unlocked. The skills include Psychic Mastery and Psychic Perception. Additionally, the virus enhancement has unlocked a new support skill, Psychic Vision. Chen Bai realizes that with these new abilities, he can now sense spirits and their actions more clearly. Chen Bai uses his newly unlocked Psychic Vision and looks closely at the spirits. He is surprised to see that there are two girls. The elder one is the one attacking him, while the younger one seems to be trying to stop her. The elder sister, named Yan Ke, is furious. She insists that her younger sister, Yang Su, let her kill him. She believes that Chen Bai is a bad person and should not be allowed to enter their house. Chen Bai is startled and frozen in place. He reflects on how complete these spirits are. They seem to have a high level of intelligence, and he realizes they are not low-level spirits. He wonders why the elder sister is using a kitchen knife to attack him. This doesn't make sense for a spirit with such power. He decides to use his psychic perception to learn more about them. A notification appears revealing details about the spirits. The elder sister's name is Yan Kai. She is an evolver with 2 unique spirit bodies. Her talents are listed as Evil Spirit S rank, and she has abilities like controlling objects, invading evil thoughts, and absorbing yin energy. The younger sister, Yang Su, is also an evolver with dual spirit bodies. However, her talents are Good Spirit S rank. Her abilities include controlling things, soothing with kind thoughts, and containing yang energy. Chen Bai is amazed by the power these 2 spirits possess. Yan Kai is still furious, demanding that her sister allow her to kill him, but Yang Su argues with her, reminding her that he has not hurt her and urging her to calm down. Chen Bai crosses his arms, thinking about what he just learned. Both Yan Ki and Yang Sui are evolvers. He hasn't seen many evolvers whose forms change because of their talents, and these 2 are unusual. He can sense their power, and he feels they are stronger than most spirits. Suddenly, Yan Ki tries to attack again, but before she can stab him, Chen Bai quickly grabs her hand. He tells her to calm down and explains that he won't hurt her. As he speaks, he releases his psychic energy so she can feel the difference between their powers. His spiritual power is much greater than hers, more than 20 times stronger. He gives her a warning. If she causes any more trouble, he will kill both her and her sister. Yan Qi clenches her teeth in anger, clearly unwilling to back down. At the same time, Yang Su steps forward, asking Chen Bai not to hurt her sister. Chen Bai sits down on the bed, his tone firm. He tells both of them that he will not hurt them, but they must listen to him. Yan Kai, still furious, curses Chen Bai. She accuses him of having perverted thoughts and tells him to come at her if he truly wants to fight, but not to bully her sister. Chen Bai responds, clearly annoyed. He says that if anyone has perverted thoughts, it's her, not him. Yan Qi grits her teeth, her anger growing. She says she will kill him if he doesn't back off. Chen Bai instructs both sisters to stay still. He tells them that he is going to ask them a few questions. He starts by asking if they know what happened to this world and if they can use the Evolver panel. Yang Sui answers first. She says that they both know what happened and that she has even read the Evolver forums. She also confirms that they can use the Evolver panel. Yan Kai responds quickly, saying that she knows very well. She adds that a lot of people have died and that many pets are gone now. She says it's a good thing they are gone. Chen Bai frowns and asks why they are only level 2. He wonders if Yan Kai is too scared to go out and kill monsters to gain experience. Yang Su steps in, explaining that it was her who stopped Yan Kai. She says that the monsters they face today were once humans. She can't bring herself to hurt them, especially since the monsters can't hurt them anymore. She adds that it's not easy for her to fight them when they were once people like themselves. Chen Bai calls Yang Su foolish. He warns her that sooner or later, someone strong enough to hurt them will appear. He asks how they will deal with them if they only stay at level 2. He stresses the danger of their power, explaining that it is tied to their emotions. If they let their emotions control them, they could become foolish and unpredictable. He tells them to close their eyes and focus. He wants them to feel their power and learn to control it. Then they should think carefully about what they need to do. Both sisters close their eyes and suddenly they start shouting. Yang Su cries out that she should help others, be a good person, and do her best to help everyone. Meanwhile, Yan Qi shouts in anger, saying she will kill everyone who harms her sister and anyone who tries to bully her. Chen Bai watches them concerned. He realizes that their rationality has been severely affected. If he doesn't discipline them properly, it might end up becoming low-level spirits acting only on pure instincts. In that case, they would lose their humanity and turn into mindless monsters. I hope that you liked today's video, and if you did, hit that like button, as today's like goal is 1,500 likes. Comment next part down below for the next part. Also consider subscribing with the notification bell on to get notified as soon as a new video drops onto the channel. You can also join the channel to support me financially and watch videos before public release. I'll meet you in the next video. Until then, thanks for watching.